You're listening to Whispers of War.
Hello everyone and welcome to show 33, the number I hate most because it's, two threes. It could be worse, I guess, 333, but I've never really managed to get that far. So yeah, next week is gonna be fun to pronounce that. But that's my quips with the English language and my accent. Anyhow, welcome to show 33 of Whispers of War. I'm your host Sil, and let's jump into how was my week in WoW. And I got some good gaming sessions in. I'm really happy about that, if I'm honest. So what did I do? I actually thought, you know what, I'm going to sit down and just finish some of the quests. First, I jumped on my druid, because I still am determined to finish all of Stormsong Valley. Did a few more quest hubs, so I'm slowly whittling away, at the hubs that are available. Hopefully I'll find a more interesting hub again soon. At the moment I'm a little bit like, it's not that interesting. And sometimes, when you take your route and all of a sudden you see that you have to go, for instance, from A to B, but along A and B there's like C, D, E, F, and you're like, okay, do I pick up those quests now? Do I do it now, or do I come back? Will I forget? I don't know. So I'm a little bit frustrated at times that I'm like, I don't know if I should go off the beaten path or what do I do? So I've stopped at a new quest area now, and I thought I'm going to do something else again. After finishing a few quest hubs off, I thought now I'm doing something else. So I actually went back to my rogue. I'm also still doing the whole, reputation grinding via the mission table. Just because I'm still locked behind something, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. I think it has to do with the war campaign. But I need to look into that. Because I actually went back to the whole questing on the rogue, on the horde side. Because I wanted to see how far I could get with that war campaign over there. Because I felt like I didn't do everything. Now, I think that I was locked behind the quest that you have to defeat Jaina in the Zara lore, and I did that. I did everything in LFR. I'm so happy you can finish those quests now in LFR, and you don't have to actually go into a normal for it in raids. I was going to go, what's the word? It's not dungeon, so in raids, and I did all of the wings this time, so everything is done now. And I actually quite enjoy it. I have to admit, I got a little bit irritated by some people who obviously don't do anything. They being a rogue myself, I saw several rogues just hiding or just standing somewhere, not doing anything. And I'm like, why is no one kicking? Even if you initiate the vote to kick, it never really goes through. Yeah, I have done it because I was really annoyed at a certain point. But I've just seen people not do anything during the entire raid. That just stood there during every encounter. I guess just waiting for either to get killed and get resurrected and just get the loot. I don't know. That's what it feels like. Even if it's LFR, I'm a little bit like, come on, just do something, Don't just stand there and whatever. No. Really, no. I just think that's rude, but oh well. So I did those, and that actually, as soon as I handed that quest in, it just opened up so much more. So I continued the war campaign, and I had to do quite a lot. So big spoiler, in case you haven't done any of this. So I wouldn't listen until I go back to the interview that I had with Thom. So the main thing, the two things that open up is, one is that you have to go with Bane, because Derek Proudmoore, it's Derek, isn't it? The one that you fish up as Horde underneath the ocean. So he gets resurrected by Sylvanas. I think people have seen the cinematic, and she wants to use him for her own plans by making him move or go back to Jaina and then kill everyone in the Proudmoore family while they were asleep or something like that. That's what she says. Bane doesn't agree with that, and then you actually go on a mission with Bane to rescue Derek Proudmoore and get him back to his sister without Sylvanas really knowing. And you do that, but you get helped by the Forsaken that you kind of made in the on the Horde war campaign before that. The Tidemaster, I think his name is Zelling. I can't remember. But what I found really interesting was that an undead helps you, to do that. It makes me wonder if some of the undead are not happy with what Sylvanas is doing. I mean, the fact that he's helping Bane do that, I found that quite interesting. Also, you don't kill everyone, because the sailors on board of the ship, some of them actually say, oh, it's not worth dying over, and they just flee. So I can kind of understand why Bane would be betrayed at a certain point. I mean, they know that it's Bane then, right? If you don't kill him. But okay, that's me. So you bring Derek back to Jaina, you get the whole cinematic, and that was very interesting. And then you tell Nathanos that it was pirates that hijacked the ship and everything. And yeah, that was an interesting bit. I quite like that. I do like Bane a lot. I always like the Tauren race. So it will be very interesting to see what's going on with the Horde. Now, at a certain point, I don't know what that was, but you actually then start communicating with Vol'jin again. And Vol'jin is wondering who brought him back. Because he's somewhere like, everyone keeps saying he's more powerful than just being dead or a ghost or whatever he is. And none of the Loa seem to have that power. Somebody says that it wasn't him who did it. He was also not the one who said that Sylvanas should be war chief. And, we all know that Vol'jin said that the Loa said that it was them saying that Sylvanas should be the next war chief. But everyone is denying that, so it's not Bwonsamdi. In fact, he says he doesn't really like Sylvanas because she's not restoring the balance. She's actually tipping the scale because she doesn't let people die like that. And you go on a mission then to speak to the Lich King, the current Lich King, and with Eir, I think her name is, the big Valkyr that Sylvanas tries to capture with that lantern she got from Helya. You talk to both of them, and I have suspicion. The Lich King says that it has nothing to do with him, and that Vol'jin is not really welcome there because he's different, completely different from what they are. And Eir, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She actually says that, she has some beef with Bwonsamdi in the past, but she's willing to tell Vol'jin what she's comfortable with. Now, she doesn't say a lot, in all fairness, and I'm just like, okay, so you do know more, you just don't want to say what it is. Now, for me personally, we've heard so much about Helya with other podcasts and people fairy crafting. I am more and more convinced that it's Helya, because what deal did Sylvanas make? And I talked about this actually yesterday with Grand Nagus, and yeah, it's true. What deal did Sylvanas make with Helya to get that lantern? So I'm a little bit, I don't know, I think it might be Helya who's being the puppet master here. So yeah, that could be interesting. I'm very unprofessional. I left my phone on, so I'm turning that off. Other than that, I don't know. It's the storyline is incredibly interesting. So you go back to Bwonsamdi, you say that it's not either of them, and he needs to converse with other spirits, and Vol'jin needs to hunt in the shadows, which is, I guess, is apt for a shadow hunter. So that's really it, and that's where it all ends. And I actually quite enjoyed talking more to Vol'jin, because everyone knows how much I love my trolls. So I enjoyed all of this questing. I really did. I don't like it that you you have to do certain missions that, of course, I didn't have enough resources for. So if I went to get more resources in the world quests, yeah, don't like stuff like that. The same with reputation grinds. I'm not looking forward to getting the reps up for the new factions that we're going to get in 8.2 to get my flying unlocked. But you know what? It will keep me busy. It will keep me busy. So I think I'm all done with the story on the Horde side until the next patch. I need to get onto it with the Druid, really. Don't know how to start the quest for the Shadow Priest artifact. You know, Zalathath? Is that her name? I need to look into how to start that. I am not entirely sure what would trigger that, or if I need to go to Orgrimmar or something. I'm not entirely sure. But I have not, that one hasn't popped up, and I don't really have anything outstanding in my quest log, so I'm a little bit confused. Yeah, I need to look into that. I'm sure that MMO Champion has something, and I'm sure if I would tweet this on the internet, people will immediately go and say, oh, you need to do this. Okay, so you know, I'll find out. But I think for so far I've done enough. I also did war fronts on both my Horde and Alliance character, and I got some upgrades, which is always good. I'm also already thinking about the next characters I want to level, and this might come as a little bit of a shock. I'm actually not thinking of leveling any of the allied races for any heritage gear, which is so bad. I'm actually thinking of leveling my my Draenei Shaman and my warrior, my warrior is my troll warrior, just because I don't know, I really like the two classes, and I think I might even want to start healing again on the shaman. Now I have no idea where shaman are nowadays with healing. They used to be okay. I think druids are still all-time favorites, that and disc priest or holy priest. So I'm a little bit like, are we still okay? Or am I going to, you know, want to rip my eyes out at the end of a dungeon? I don't know. If I want to start doing that, however, I really need to get back into the dungeons on my DPS tunes, just to check them out before I try to do anything with a healing character. Because, God, that could be awful. Awful. But yeah, very, very busy this week, and I've really enjoyed my time in World of Warcraft. I'm definitely not bored yet. If I do get bored, I just jump into something like 2 Point Hospital, or, you know, I just go back to any of the other games that my Steam library is overflowing with. So yeah, I'm having a great time in gaming, and I also had a great time talking about games with our lovely Thom, that you might remember from, I think it was episode 5 maybe, or I don't know, something around that. It was very early days. And he's back, and we're talking a little bit about gaming, you know, what other MMOs could learn from each other, things like that. And once you have had the interview, I'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about guild drama, so enjoy the interview. So today I am joined by a former guest and someone I always enjoy talking to. Welcome back, Thom.
Hey, Sil, it's great to be back.
And I love having you on, and you have so many podcasts to your name, and you started with something new.
I have indeed. And actually, just before we get into that, Sil, I just have to say that a new Hearthstone expansion is about to go live, and I have chosen to come and talk to you. And, you know, I had to say, if there was anything else out there that was going to pull me away from a Hearthstone expansion release, I would have said, no, it's a Hearthstone expansion release. But still, Whispers of War, very glad to be here. I'm giving up the Hearthstone expansion. That coming second. This firmly comes first before a Hearthstone expansion.
I feel incredibly humbled by that. No, I really do appreciate that, because I know how important it can be to people to be there at launch time. So I really appreciate that. Thom, for those that don't know you, tell a little bit about, you know, who you are, what you do. You love Hearthstone. That's obviously.
Love Hearthstone. Do we need to go into any more details than that?
I don't know.
Just a few more.
Just a few.
Just a few more. Well, I guess I'll just do a general bio that I am a virtual assistant who helps people run their business. I'm my own boss, which is pretty cool. And because I'm my own boss, I do have a bit more free time to be a bit more creative with the things I'm doing. And I've been a podcaster over at the Blue Recluse for 5 years now. We actually turned 5. I don't think we really did much promo about that, but we've been plugging on, obviously, with things going on in the Blizzard realm over the past 6-8 months. It's been a bit rocky, but we've stabilized the ship over there and got Nerd This, which has been happening as well. At 6 months old now, where with the when me and Marty and Michael teamed up with Dusty and Ryan from the Blizzard umbrella, and we formed this ultimate nerdy talk show where we're just talking about everything that gets us nerdy. But the new thing in my life, because why not start another podcast? So that's the thing when you have a podcast is you just can't wait to start another one for some reason.
It is very addictive, I have to admit.
Yeah, it is. It's like getting a tattoo. I don't have any tattoos, but once you get one, you get your whole body covered. And
I can confirm that's true.
Yeah, that'll be me. I'll eventually end up like somebody like Fratzley, who literally podcasts when he's breathing. He's existing, he's podcasting. That guy is a machine. He's a podcast machine. But I started a new podcast, a solo project. So this is the first time I've really took something on in the podcasting sphere where it's just me. I've got no one else to blame. I've got no one else to say, hey, you didn't post to social media, or hey, you didn't edit the show. It's all on me. I'm having that conversation with myself in a quiet room alone and delegating the tasks out. But yes, I started a new show called 3 Extra Lives, which is a video game and trivia podcast where I'm focusing on the video game stories, which aren't quite making the headlines, but have a positive impact in the video gaming world. And I'm also taking that opportunity to take a focus on indie games as well, because I really want to root for indie game developers. I've been reading a book recently called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels by I think the lead writer over at Kotaku. And that goes into some real interesting behind the scenes of what it takes to actually make a video game. And it's almost eye-opening to me that obviously I knew how hard it is to make a video game, but there's so many components and there's so much that can go wrong with that it really is incredible how each video game is made. And it just made me sit and think about how we look at video games and how I think sometimes we just believe they're made by these robot people and they make it and they ship it out and we play it and then something's wrong with it and we give our feedback. But it's made by real people with real lives, real things going on. And it's just incredible that this is a platform that we have, and we are spoiled for choice with what we have these days to access. It's incredible. And if you're a gamer, my goodness, you're just swimming in all this good stuff out there. There's bad stuff. I'm not saying there's not bad stuff, but there's so much good stuff that I find it hard to really focus on something that I wouldn't enjoy because there's just so much out there that I can switch my attention to.
Has it also made you a little bit more forgiving then to, we've had some games that had a very shaky release, to say the least. And then, they had to patch it up after the community basically went on a witch hunt and demanded their money back, because that happens a lot now over Steam, that people can go, now I want my money back, or this is not a good game. And has it made you a little bit more like, you know what, actually, I understand how much work and time goes into these games now, so I'm willing to give it a shot?
I think to a degree, yes, but I would categorize myself as not a person that would have instantly bought a game and then be reactive to that. I've also, over the past few years, and it might be because I switched to being a freelancer more, that I don't have the frivolous income sometimes to just go and buy a brand new game. So I usually don't go out and buy like a game on day one, unless it's probably a World of Warcraft expansion or something like that I need to be there day one. A Hearthstone expansion, so I have to be there day one. But No, I've always been like taking a step back, see how the launch goes. When it comes to online games, I've always been fairly forgiving where things can go wrong. We live in a technological age where, yes, there's so many advances in it now, but servers can still crash, monitors can go on fire. I fully understand that. I'm usually like, oh, I'll probably give it a week after launch. It'll be totally smooth. And we're getting better with that. We've seen with the likes of Battle for Azeroth launching worldwide simultaneously that there wasn't really a hitch, maybe over in the States, but you know, us Europeans didn't get any problems. It was totally fine. But I've always been pretty forgiving that way. But at the same time, yes, I've just been more open to thinking, okay, there's something, if there's something I don't enjoy about this game and I feel passionate enough that I need to say something about this game, I have got to make that constructive. I've got to make that in a way that somebody from that game can look at this and say, okay, that's a good point. Okay, we can definitely do something with that. And a lot of the times we just get reactive emotions to whatever's happening. And I guess you could probably throw a blanket across this to many things, not just video games, but politics or whatever else is happening out there right now. I don't even want to look, but it definitely just makes me stop for a second and think before I would just throw something out about a video game. And actually it brought me back to when No Man's Sky came out, and that's a game I'm a big advocate for now. But I remember when that game got released, I downloaded the image, the logo for No Man's Sky, and I edited it in MS Paint to say No Man's By. And I posted it on Twitter, and I thought I was really funny by doing that. I've since very recently scrolled back through years of tweets to delete that. And I just feel like that didn't help anyone. That doesn't help anyone. That was just me trying to get a few likes or a few chuckles. But there's real people out there who've spent a lot of time trying to make a video game. And I don't know if we'll get into No Man's Sky later on, but it's a game I have a lot of respect for the developers and how they've handled that situation after the game launched, and it didn't meet a lot of expectations of the players. So just being a bit more considerate and a bit more open-minded to everything that happens behind the scenes, because we don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes, and that can be attributed to, you know, everything that could probably be attributed to the things that have been going on at Blizzard as well the past 6 to 8 months, that there has been lots of rumblings, lots of ground has been moved, and it's scary because Blizzard has been something that we've all kept close to our hearts, and this is definitely treading on ground that we've covered a lot recently, but it definitely makes you just stop in your tracks and just think about exactly what's happening, because we don't really know.
No, and I think, you know, when you talk about No Man's Sky, I think you're referring to was it something like a presentation that they gave about how they experienced the launch weeks and how they had to deal with it as a company? Because I was quite impressed with them to actually see that they themselves were really disappointed with it, and that it was quite hard for them to face, you know, all the issues that they had, and you know, that they were actually just people and who had their own families and stuff, and you know, how the internet can react to something in quite a volatile way.
Yeah, it can be really brutal that you have to deal with like the threats and the vulgar reactions. It's just it's not right. It's not right that game devs at any level, I'm saying at any level, even UEA, even at that level, that they have to deal with things like that. It's just not right. And I think in the presentation as well by Sean Murray of Hello Games, he said that toxicity runs and rules a big part of video games, and I think it's true. You see this undercurrent of toxicity wherever you go within video games, and in multiplayer games especially, that it's something that I'm definitely a big advocate for. Of there is definitely a way we can make this a better place, and I don't think it's doing witch hunts. I don't think it's throwing back hatred at somebody and causing this circle of anger that it would definitely create. And it's just, yeah, just trying to be one of the, it sounds kind of cheesy, but just trying to be one of the good peeps out there to celebrate and encourage people playing video games, no matter the level or what game they're playing. It's just, we're all gamers deep down. We have this passion to pick up a controller and spend hours losing ourselves in all the different worlds and realms out there. And just, I'm just a big advocate of, if people love video games, it doesn't matter who they are or what they are. It's just, let's just enjoy playing video games.
I think you might be a little bit younger than me, but I think you're also from that generation that when you used to play on a console, which could be like the NES or the Sega or the PlayStation, when it all came out, there was always something like, there's nothing online. You just put the cartridge in and you play. And if the game wasn't for you, that was often a risk that you would run, because, there was no real way of actually playing it and trying it out or seeing reviews. All you had were like the game magazines, which were very rare at that point in time. And, you had to read the opinion of one other person. And I sometimes bought games and I thought, okay, well, yeah, I guess this is either really hard, but I never thought, oh yeah, this game is riddled with bugs, I'm going to write to the developers and just stalk them and be really volatile. Because I was just like, oh well, it's just not for me. I'll see if I can swap for a different game, or maybe I'll try it on a different day. Or I don't know if it's just because we're online now and everything is so much more accessible to everyone, because devs are online and you can try and reach out to them over Twitter, same with their companies. And I don't know at times if it's a better thing or not. I think it's good that they hear the opinion of people, but it's sometimes how you construct that opinion that I'm like, I don't know. Would you swear to someone face to face? Do you think if that would happen to you, would you actually listen to that person, or would you just think, you know what, get out of my face right now?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just, it almost comes down to internet etiquette 101, doesn't it? That would you say this to a person in the street? You probably wouldn't. And people think it's okay just because it's online that we can behave like this. And that's maybe something that grinds my gears a bit. But I think you actually raise a really great point about just the simplicity of when we used to buy games and there was no real way to leave feedback. It was just like, yep, I don't like this game, but I just spent all my pocket money on it. So too bad, Thom. That's it. You're gonna have to play this copy of Theme Park on the Mega Drive and enjoy it. And that's it. It's okay. It's a bit clunky with a controller, but you've just bought this, so you better enjoy it. But I mean, again, I think it's good people have opinions, and we've seen it with the likes of Kickstarter, for example, which is something I've been paying a lot more interest into recently, because there's a lot of indie devs coming up through there and being able to get their games funded and supported by these channels, which didn't exist back when we were just trying to put our cartridges in our Mega Drives, and when they weren't working, blowing in them, and somehow they were miraculously working again. It's just, there is, for everything that it's kind of like, oh, I wish that wasn't there, there's something that makes you go, well, that's good, isn't it? Wow. So it's just this constant battle we have of internet is amazing and terrible. It's just, that's it. It's both brilliant, we couldn't live without it, and I wish it never existed. That's it. Just all in one comment. It's,
yeah, like you said, it has its really good points and it has its really, really bad points, unfortunately. Now, what you said about, that there's a lot of controversy about certain games. The one thing that, because my podcast is a World of Warcraft podcast, but I know that at this point in time, you're not playing. And that wasn't a reason for me to not ask you back, because like we chatted before the show, I know that you guys have a really good opinion about things and you know how to word things well, why you wouldn't play it at this point in time. Now, I know you're not the only one in this, because there's actually a large group of people who don't play the game at this point in time. And there's also a large group of people who do play, but I'm just really confused for myself because I remember when BFA was announced and, you know, the whole, it's faction war again, and this is the story we're getting, like Cold Tyrants, we're finally seeing Zandalari. People seem so incredibly enthusiastic, and you still hear when you get tidbits of this is what's happening in the game, this, like, Von Sandi's in there, or you see the old gods. People get really enthusiastic, but there's still a large chunk of people who went like, I just don't like the game at this point in time. What was it for you that made you stop playing at this point in time, and what could persuade you to come back?
So mine is a bit of a mixed bag, because I remember when I came on your show the last time, Syl, it was just before Battle for Azeroth was launching, and we were super stoked about the story. I had come back from a long hiatus actually then, and rekindled that passion. And I think for me, and I know my girlfriend Amanda, who we were playing through Battle for Azeroth, we were leveling through the zones, really leveling it. Leveling it? I don't know, I've just combined two words there. Then we went traveling, which just put a stop to us playing World of Warcraft completely. And we were gone for 3 months. And we were arriving back the same week as patch 8.1. And I was like, yep, we're going to come back. We're going to resub. It's going to be great. We're going to play. And I don't know, something with 8.1 just didn't really stick with me. It felt a bit underwhelming. So I was like, okay, you know what? We'll just hang off for a while. I was playing Final Fantasy 14 with a few people in the Dragon Powered studio community as well. We're having a good time there, just having that new MMO experience, not knowing what we were doing. Absolutely clueless noobs just running around. And there's something endearing about that in an MMO when you go to it and you actually don't know what to do. It makes it a bit magical. When you've played maybe World of Warcraft for 13, 14 years and you could close your eyes and play that game. You just know everything about it pretty much. But yeah, then just this weird time progression happened, and I did jump back into it a few weeks ago when they had the free weekend, and I did quests. And to be honest, I've never not thought that the storyline right now has been some of the best in World of Warcraft, because it's bringing back the rivalry of the Horde and the Alliance. There's some morally gray things happening in the storyline, which I think's actually made the narrative at least quite interesting with regards to where the Horde is heading. And people are saying, oh, it's just going to be Garrosh 2.0. I've never thought it's going to go that way again. If that happens, then okay, I'll sign off on you sending Ian Hazakostas a tweet saying, well, that's a bit silly. That's you've just done that again. You just hit the rehash button on that. But I've always been pretty interested in the story Battle for Azeroth is building up to. Obviously, there's no old gods, but if there was old gods showing up very soon, that's going to be very interesting to kind of delve into the ramifications of everything there. But yeah, I don't know. I just haven't found enough to kind of push me back in. And I'm looking at the horizon. I'm seeing 8.2. The biggest patch ever scares me, because I remember there was a certain patch in Legion which was dubbed the biggest patch ever, and we didn't get to play straight away. But saying that, I think one of the big reasons is, and I know this will probably be worked out in the next expansion, is they introduced Warfronts, which, don't get me wrong, I went in there and I love the concept of Warfronts, and I love the fact that they've revamped the Arathi Highlands and they've revamped Darkshore. But I think for me, Warfronts just falls a bit flat, that you're going into something that you feel like there's just no meaning to it, that you could probably just do very little or nothing and get rewarded for that. And that doesn't sit too well with me. Just the fact that I like to know that I'm contributing to something, that what I'm doing has meaning. And I think that's a common theme with a lot of the elements that make up World of Warcraft right now, that you can go out and do world quests, you can somehow get amazing gear that's mythic raid standard if you get lucky, and then it's just me kind of raising my question, well, the progression feels a bit off. It feels like that whatever I do, it doesn't really matter. And I think that's might not just be an issue I'm having with World of Warcraft, but an issue I'm having with MMOs in general. I'm having an MMO identity crisis. Please help. Please help. Because I love MMOs and I just can't seem to get back into them. I'm even on a break from Final Fantasy 14. Just tells you everything. Having a crisis still. I'm having a crisis, but
Well, I think a lot of MMO players have that at a certain point because as many people know, I dabble in I think all of them. And I can feel it as well. Even when you jump from World of Warcraft now and again to Final Fantasy to Elder Scrolls Online to Star Wars, the Old Republic, and then what else do I have on my desktop? I have Terra, I have Black Deserts. It's ridiculous how many MMOs I have on my desktop, and it's just there is that point that you're just like, it is just not scratching that particular itch that I need.
That is true. That is true. And you do that thing where you end up spending all that time updating the ones you haven't played for ages. You're sitting there, you're like, yes, I'm going in, I'm going back, I'm coming back. Guild Wars 2, I'm almost there. You wait all the time, you update it, you jump back in for about 5 minutes, you go, what am I doing here? I don't want to be here. Let me try that other one. And you just go through this cycle, and usually you might end up back at World of Warcraft because it's that safe place that but I don't know, I'm just in a really weird space of MMOs, and it's a little bit frustrating because I love having an MMO to call home and to have that community aspect. And obviously doing a podcast where I'm talking about Blizzard games, I feel like a bit of a fraud where I'm like, yeah, well, I don't play World of Warcraft anymore. I'm just the Hearthstone guy. That's it. That's my label. That's
Thom, that's still very important.
I know, and I'm now I'm not even going to be an expert in that still because I've missed the launch. I don't even know what the meta is right now. It's all gone to crap. I don't.
Stop making me feel so good.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, the servers are probably down still, but we're fine. We're all good.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yep.
No, but I absolutely understand you, and I think, like I said, I just found it's very confusing to see how many people are still really, really into it, and then there's this large chunk of people who just can't grasp it anymore. Just they've not fallen out of love, but it's just not that thing for them at this point in time. And you can see that a lot of people are also really confused as to why that is. And I know that a lot of people like to blame Azerite gear, which I think was, hearing everyone talk about it might not have been the smartest thing to do after something as epic as what we had in Legion, with the
definitely
weapons.
That's one thing that I think I was a bit just like, what? We spent all this time making our magical artifact, and then that went away, and then what came after was just a bit confusing. Actually, I still really don't understand what Azerite gear does, how it even works, and that's just not a good thing where you have this main core gear system that, just gonna say it, that even Thom doesn't really get, just without having to do a lot of research into it. It doesn't really explain what it does, I don't think. I just had that dilemma the first few weeks in Battle for Azeroth where I was getting these Azerite gear, but I was like, what is it? Like, why is this one different, and what exactly am I doing to customize myself here? And yeah, they've probably tipped the boat with that one, to be honest. And I think they've pretty much admitted that it didn't play out as they expected. And again, I have to resort to my inner zen where I'm like, well, okay, they've done something and they've dropped the ball on it, but okay, they've made a mistake with this, but they're not gonna stick with this. They're not just gonna hold this and say, no, this is it, this is what we're doing, this is always gonna be like this, because we know World of Warcraft always has these development changes, systems change, and this is going to be one thing they're going to probably be like, yep, that one's going in the fire.
Yeah, I think that with the next expansion we won't see anything that has to do with Azerite gear anymore, which is not a bad thing. I mean, we've had some pretty bad things in the past. I think people tend to forget that there were some decisions out there that were not great, and it will come, you know. And there's always classic if people want to start playing that again. So
well, that's it. You know, bring back the old tier sets. You know what I'm saying? Those were the good old days. Still back when World of Warcraft, there was nothing wrong with World of Warcraft. Man, it was perfect. Absolutely
it
perfect.
was great. It was great having ninja looters and all those things. I loved
Ninja
it.
looters and 7 ranks of fireball on my spell bar.
I had that with Moonfire. It was like rank 3 in Moonfire and a 1 because I just need to dot it. That's all I need to do. And yeah.
Are you looking
didn't
forward
have
to
enough
Classic, by
bars.
the way?
Yes and no. More to revisit old quests because I can't remember the quests anymore from before Kata of the revamped stones.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking forward to that. Not so much the leveling part because that's going to really be painful again.
I like that. I like the fact that the whole leveling concept to me excites me because I feel like in MMOs in general, they've trivialized leveling now. Leveling just has you just don't even think about leveling. And I remember just going around the world of Azeroth, and there was these just certain areas where you had to avoid them. Specifically, like beside Shadowfang Keep, there was an elite area full of Worgens, and it just felt scary. It was like, oh, I'm not going in there. Can't go in there till I'm a big boy. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. The world felt a bit more dangerous, and I felt like I had to be a bit more observant to what I was pulling or where I was going. And now I can just auto run, sit back in the chair, and just, well, not even auto run. It's flying, isn't it? Flying. Don't even have to worry about anything anymore.
And now, that will be interesting in Classic again to have that extra bit of like, oh, okay, yeah, better not go into that area yet because I'm not strong enough or I don't have the right gear for it anymore. I'm looking forward to experiencing it again. But I also like my comforts in the current the Warcraft game.
It's going to be strange, isn't it, to probably go back to, and I don't know how it's going to go, because for me, that concept of playing my character and progressing it and knowing that there's going to be another expansion, I'm going to take that character forward and continue that journey, that's something that's maybe not going to happen with Classic unless they decide to go for a Burning Crusade server. But then what is the point of that if we're just playing World of Warcraft 10 years ago, but we're playing it now, we're playing at a delayed rate? I don't know if that actually appeals to me, to have to go through everything that I've been through already, because I'm at a different stage in my life. It's not going to be the same, no matter how rose tinted these glasses are. It's not going to be the same. But I'm definitely curious to go back into Classic and just make a character and see what happens with it. Maybe just take up a bit of role playing and that's park on a bench there and just go with that. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, you know how I feel about role playing.
Oh, I know.
No, I think that would be really interesting. Have you thought about what class you would want to roll?
Ooh, I don't know. Probably a paladin, which I play right now anyway. I main a paladin. I have done since the Burning Crusade, so lots have changed since the classes, but I always did like the clunkiness and a little bit sad way paladins used to play. It was just really slow, really clunky. You weren't allowed to be Retribution. That was very naughty. You shouldn't be playing Retribution.
You were there for buffs, weren't you? That's what paladins were for in raids.
Yeah, buffs, and that was just the existence. But I did main a warlock in my original first year of Warcraft, and that was sad times as well. Warcrafts were just not kindly treated. They were just seen as some useless class that couldn't do anything, and it was far from the truth. So I don't know if I'd want to revisit those painful memories still, but I don't have to think about it. I'd have to drop a spreadsheet or something. I don't know.
I know. I'm a bit like, I don't want to be a druid because I don't want to be just a mana battery.
Yeah, see, druids were just not... They could only heal, apparently, but we did have a feral druid in our guild who we were like, no, we accept you for what you are. You're a feral druid. You're going to tank Molten Core. And we did. He was one of our main tanks for Molten Core, and it was great, and it worked. And it just showed that, you know what, screw those guides or doing everything optimal the way it's supposed to be done. Let people play the way they want to be able to play. Like, some somebody wants to be a feral druid in our molten core raid, then we were just like, hell yeah, you wear that. What was their tier 1, which just had no benefit for feral druid at all?
Was it? I can't remember.
Was it wild? It wasn't wild heart. That was.
It could have been that one. It was the one with the dead bird when you're ahead. It was.
Was that wild heart, or was that their tier like 0.5? I can't remember.
I think that was 0.5. Probably. It was ugly. It was so ugly. And then later on, we got some really cool ones with the. Was it Malfurian's raiment? I can't remember. Scenarios? You had one with the big antlers. That was all grassy and you had sticks coming out of your shoulder, and the other one was the big moose horns and shoulder pads that were supposedly bear claws, but it looked like you had giant spider heads on your shoulder.
Like we say, so the good old days. Those were the good old days when gear was just, and there was no transmog, right? So it just, this is me. This is who I am.
I do. You know what? I sometimes really miss class specific outfits, if I'm honest. I do miss that, but
yeah, I mean the transmog system, I couldn't imagine Warcraft without it, but there was something about knowing there was this specific item in a dungeon or a raid that when you got it you were going to be looking badass, and it was just that feeling of getting it and going, yes, I don't look ridiculous, this is so cool. But now we can just transmog we're never going to look bad unless, you know, we come out of the dungeon and we're making the walk of shame, I call it, when you have to run to the transmog vendor and quickly just make your gear good again. Even when you're leveling still, just you can't accept it. Even when you get that green upgrade and you know in 5 minutes you're going to get a new helm or something to replace it, you still have to Hearthstone back to the transmog guy and update that, because you can't be seen wearing bad gear.
No, you have to look good, right? Because that's all it is.
That's it. I mean, if I've got war mode on and I'm not, I think I even talked about this last time, did I? Something about transmog and war mode. It's ringing a bell. Ringing a bell. Must be true.
You know what I really miss, and this is sounding so stupid, but you know that back in the day when you were a raider, and that people actually, because you couldn't transmog, people saw, oh wow, they went to like Molten Core, they went to Blackwing Lair. Which was great because, you know, you could be a bit like stroke my epeen, but it was also, for me personally as a druid, I loved it that when we went to, was it Zul Garub?
Yeah.
That we went and I got Will of Arlok, and I was so horrible on my RP server because I would just say things like, if I saw that people looked at me, I went like, do you want to touch my snake? It was really wrong.
I can't imagine you ever got a response to that still, did you?
I think I scared a lot of people away, but
there was many a snake party at the Goldshire Inn that night.
Yeah, I know. It's you know, the fun of being on an RP server. But yeah, I sometimes miss it a little bit, but I also know very well that Classic will have its downfall. So I'm sure that a lot of people will go, so this is why people go, it was harder back in Classic with certain things. Just because, you know, there's no quality of life items, really, that we have.
Yeah, and it's funny when you look back at that now, because I think Warcraft was seen as something a bit more casual compared to the likes of EverQuest, for example. But now when you look at the shift we've had from what Classic WoW is to how WoW is now, it's like, whoa, you don't even have to go into a raid to get raid gear. That's how advanced we are now.
Yep, exactly. I mean, you can do everything to get you up to that level without ever stepping a foot in a raid, really. Right, Thom, I would like to talk more about your new podcast, because, you know, it was all about the positivity and the topics that you might not see so much like in the big news about gaming and everything. Where do you normally get your topics from?
Ooh, you're asking me for my source? That is
well,
how rude.
Do you, not so much your source, but do you like talk to people that you've heard talk about a certain thing, or do you like go on the internet for it, or?
I have a wonderful news app on my phone which delivers me video game news at an hourly basis, and I spend many a times during my day scrolling through it going, that could be good, and I put a little bookmark beside it. But also I just follow some hashtags on Twitter, especially the indie games, and I'm seeing a lot of people posting there, a lot of developers, and it's just this stream of constant information that I'm staring at, just in awe, with my jaw dropping, like, oh, people are posting every second with this hashtag. It's amazing. And I'm just kind of everywhere on the internet. That sounds a bit wrong, but just on the Kickstarters, on the funding pages as well, just trying to get a scope of everything that's going on. And that maybe is a bit ridiculous because there is a lot going on, but there's just stuff happening that I know I'm not going to read that on a top gaming website, or I'm not going to hear that on a podcast because it's happening and I don't think it's really getting the attention that maybe it deserves, because there's a lot of small developers out there, developers that are working on games by themselves or in very small teams that are putting their blood, sweat and tears into these projects, and maybe they make it, maybe they don't, but I just want to be one of those people that are actively looking for that and saying, hey, this is going to be a great game, this is going to be awesome, and just doing a bit of work to outreach to developers as well. And I've made some connections already with some developers. It's really awesome to do that and establish some relationships early on in 3 Extra Life's podcasting careers. So I'm just so excited to grow this and to get to know more developers and just expand that way.
That's really amazing. And you know what I really, really love also about your podcast is your trivia questions. Because that's what it's all about. And you should have seen me at work. I'm like, okay, no, I know this one. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is definitely the answer. And then I get it wrong. And I'm like, how could I have failed that so badly?
Yeah, I've always been someone that likes to find out trivia and then take that trivia and ask people that very question just to see if they know it, because I was like, oh, well, I didn't know it, but that's blown my mind. Let's see who else knows it. And then they don't know it, and then I tell them the answer. Like, whoa, that's so, how do you know that? But I've always just been a fan of like going to pub quizzes and just playing games where like Trivial Pursuit and things like that. And trivia is just something that I love doing. I like asking trivia, mainly asking trivia. I think I like answering, but I think I actually just get a kick out of asking people questions and they don't know. I'm like, whoa. Not really. I don't laugh at people when they don't get it right, but that was something that kind of fell in late when I was making 3 Extra Lives. But I had this idea of, oh, well, I'm going to have 3 segments, fairly short, fairly digestible. And then maybe I can ask a question, a bit of trivia after that. And it might not necessarily directly relate to the subject I was talking about. I try my very best to segue into something relevant to get that connective thread. And I've had a few geography questions, something even outside the video game sphere, which some people liked. Some people sent me angry WhatsApp messages, but that's okay. It's okay.
It's just because they're bad at geography.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm not going to mention any names who's bad at geography, but if you've ever listened to Nerd This or the Blue Recluse, you probably know who it is, and they live in Denmark. But anyway, I did bring you some questions, Sil. If you're up for this, I brought you some World of Warcraft trivia. I brought you 3 questions. If you're up for this,
yes, I'm up for it. But oh god, okay.
Okay, question 1. That is the question you sent me. I should scroll down and look at the questions I have for you. Okay, here we go. Can you name the book by Christie Golden that bridged the gap between Legion and Battle for Azeroth?
That's Before the Storm, isn't it?
That is correct. Yay! So I'm going to start a bit, just make you feel good. Nice little one to get you going there.
And the hard ones go, okay.
Yeah, well, who knows? They're easy if you know them, apparently. So, okay, next question. How many expansions has there been in World of Warcraft?
God. Right, I have to count now. So, we have Burning Crusade, we have Wrath of the Lich King, then we got Kata, Mist of Pandaria, then we got, was it Wad? That was Wad. Then we had, I think I'm already counting not on the right finger.
You've definitely missed the time. I usually give people 10 seconds on my podcast, so you're beyond that still, but I'll give you half a point if you can get this.
I think it's 6. Oh no, it's 7 with the current.
It's 7. It's 7, yeah. But I have to take your first answer still. I am a ruthless quizmaster. Ruthless.
Oh, I suck. Yeah, okay.
And final question. Can you name Gen Greymane's wife?
Why do I want to say Mia?
Ding, 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 ding. That is correct. Well done.
I don't know
that's a nice 2 out of
why.
3.
You know what? That's not too bad, considering I wasn't counting Battle for Azeroth.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
that's
too.
understandable to some people, I'm sure, that you didn't count that, but you also counted Warlords of Draenor. Controversial, but I know. Hey, 2 out of 3 is really good. And even when people come up to me and say, hey, I only got 1 question right in your quiz, I'm like, that's good. That's something. Yay.
You know what? I'm happy with that. I'm happy that I got the Mia one correct, because I thought you'd
that's
be
tricky.
a shit person who loves lore, and then you're like, I don't know that.
I think it's just one of those things where it's like she's a character that's started to become a bit more prevalent, hasn't she, in the story since Battle for Azeroth? But it's still one of those names like, oh, what is she called? What is it? And it's a pretty important character now, but I think just getting more screen time for characters like that as well definitely helps.
Absolutely. I think we really, really do need to get more screen time in for certain female characters that we don't see anymore. What would you like to... Is there anything you would want to say about your podcast or MMOs or games in general, or anything that you still want to share with everyone?
Ooh, I don't know. What about I just talk about a couple of games I've been playing recently?
Yeah, absolutely.
And a bit more of an indie focus, but I'll start with something that's fairly well known, and it's called Little Nightmares. I don't know if you've heard of it, Sil.
Yeah.
You have heard of it? Have you played it?
No, not yet. I do want to play it, but I've not done that yet.
So Little Nightmares, for those who don't know, is a puzzle platformer horror game. And it's out on PC, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. But this game, if you've played Limbo, it is something that I would definitely compare it to. But it's a game that is almost trying to capture those childhood horror aspects. So you've got like the blind guy with the long arms, and you've got the chef, and you've got just a lot of creepy atmospheric situations where your hands are going to get sweaty. It's going to make you relive childhood nightmares that you actually didn't know you had. And I'm making it sound really terrible, but it's actually just a really fascinating setting for a game. It's based on a ship, which is a prison that you're trying to escape from. And it's just very well made, very, like I say, atmospheric. You can just get lost in there. And I'm terrible at horror games still. I have really bad anxiety playing horror games. Just that moment where you're waiting for the thing to happen, just that suspense. And it usually gets me, and I just have to turn the game off. I'm just like, I can't do it. I'm freaking out. I can't do it. But I've managed to get through Little Nightmares. And actually, something else, just to throw in some self-promo, I've started streaming with 3 Extra Lives as well, just to have something happening in the 3 Extra Lives realm between releasing a podcast. And it really helped me get through Little Nightmares, because I was streaming it, had a couple of people in the chat helping me feel, holding my hand, and telling me it was going to be okay. But yeah, I've been doing some streaming as well, and that's something that I've done a little bit of. We obviously stream the Blue Reckless every 2 weeks now when we do it, but we have an off week where we stream a Blizzard game, and just taking over that thing from a solo side and maybe trying to work out if I can do a schedule. I don't know. I'm not at that point where I can commit to doing that. And I know it's just one of those dilemmas, isn't it? Being someone that wants to stream a lot, and you're like, oh, but I need this schedule, don't I? Because people would actually want to know when I'm going to be doing this, if I'm going to be doing it.
Yeah, but I think, if you have a following, you can just do it ad hoc. I see so many people just doing it whenever they feel like it.
Hashtag impromptu streams. And that's what I'm running on at the minute, just trying to use that as an area to play lesser known games as well. Obviously Little Nightmares is quite popular in the indie game sphere, but I've been picking up other games as well with a more indie focus. One game that I actually picked up was called Mars Underground, which came out in March, and actually got speaking to the developer on this as well. And this was a cool, like indie, like old school SNES RPG art style. And the thing that really got me about this game was that it's an apocalyptic adventure, but you live the same day over and over again. And the premise is you're this guy called Mars, or this kid called Mars, and it's your first day at your new school, and you kind of go through that. But there's something a little bit strange happening in the neighborhood. Don't want to say aliens, but aliens. And you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. But when it comes to the end of the day, you need to take your medication, which you were given to, which puts you to sleep, which starts the day again. But you uncover things in dialogue, which you can then use at different parts of the day. And it's just really, really cool to go through this. And it's just a puzzle that you're trying to solve, and you're unlocking clues that you're like, well, maybe if I know this information now in the evening, I can use it earlier in the day when the day starts again. And it's just little things like that, which just a small little game, which does something that actually scratches a big itch for me. Apparently I love the time manipulation, Groundhog Day happening over and over again. That's something I haven't seen too often in gaming, if ever. And it's just like, oh, this is good. I'm a real life Bill Murray right now. I'm just living this day over and over again. And it's really great.
I do like stuff like that. That is really, really cool. And that's also great for live streaming. Yeah,
it's just something totally different. Maybe no one else out there is actually doing that as well. And maybe that has its pros and cons. We're like, well, nobody knows about this game, so they wouldn't be looking for it. But somebody might trip over something and stumble in and go, whoa, what's this? And that's just, for me, that's better than just covering something that has all the views on Twitch, because we know the big games like Apex Legends, Fortnite, they're fine. They're doing all right. There's plenty of representation there, and people who stream those games as well. I'm not taking some sort of hipster video game high ground saying, oh, well, I only stream indie games. But it's just like, yeah, everyone has their thing and what they enjoy doing. And I'm having an absolute blast at just covering this realm of the video game world that feels really accessible, actually, because it feels like it's your voice can be heard in this area, just because it's not as mainstream. And I'm actually finding that really refreshing when it comes to just networking and connecting with people, that you can reach out to somebody and say, hey, how's it going? And they're like, hey, I really appreciate that. And because you're not like sending a message to a developer that has 5 million followers and all these messages coming through at once. It's actually really nice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Were there other games that you really want to like tell people you need to play this?
I only wrote those two down in my preparation.
No, that's fine.
I was gonna bring up No Man's Sky again, because that's a game that's getting big updates in the summer with No Man's Sky Online, which we don't know too much about, but they're saying it's not going to be an MMO, but I feel like they're could be taking some sort of MMO features and putting it into the No Man's Sky world, which is really exciting. They're obviously also going for VR in that game as well. And there's one more big announcement that they're going to make about No Man's Sky, which we don't know yet. They had 3 updates and they decided, you know what, we're just going to make it one humongous update in the summer. And No Man's Sky Beyond is something I'm really looking forward to. Like I said earlier, I've been following the story of No Man's Sky from release until I jumped on board with it about a year after release. And then ever since then, I've been a big advocate of how that game's being turned around and how that company, Hello Games, is just dealing with everything with regards to the hate, the feedback that they got about the game, and how they've positively turned all that into something good again. And it's just an incredible story, I think. And I have a lot of time for that company and what their vision is with regards to, yeah, we're not doing microtransactions. We're not doing this paid DLC, which is it's a bit of a awkward subject to have, I think, with regards to video games, because in some ways you could say, well, video games hasn't really suffered from that inflation of getting more expensive. It's never been more accessible, but at the same time, there is some nefarious practices with regards to paid content within games after you've spent a nice hefty chunk of your money on a nice like AAA title, for example. So yeah, I'm just have a lot of time for Hello Games and No Man's Sky and what they're doing over there. I'm very excited to see what happens in the summer with that.
I think that's a really good one, and it's nice to see that a game that, you know, was so criticized at the start now still being there and actually starting to get that love again from people. I think that's really, really such a positive message.
Yeah, it just kind of shows you that, okay, something comes out the gate that's being really ambitious, that we are quick to jump on that, and if it's not to what we think and what our expectations are, then it's okay to shoot that down. But I'm all for just taking a step back and going, well, maybe they're trying something and it's not quite working, but it's like anything. If they're going to make changes, it's not going to happen overnight. When it comes to video games development, this process takes time. Even, for example, I might sit here and go, well, you know what? I don't really like the Azerite gear system in World of Warcraft, but I can't expect them to fix that in 1 week. That's something they built their entire expansion around for a year or more. That's not going to change overnight, but I accept that I would have to wait until that is approached in a different way. They're acknowledging that it's going to change or changes are going to be made, but realistically, probably won't be till the next expansion when we'll see what lessons they have learned from that. And from then, maybe you can say, if they did something similar, well, you've gone ahead with something similar that was in the last expansion that a lot of people had a lot of issues with. And then maybe you be more constructive then. And that's when you might ask more questions. But I just think we're just, as gamers sometimes, and just in general, we're very reactive, aren't we, to what is in our faces. And I don't know, just taking a bit more time to think about the repercussions of our actions is always good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that. And I'm hoping that what we get in summer for that game would be just the complete opposite of how their other start was. I think they deserve that. After that speech that they made, I think they absolutely deserve it.
Yeah.
Well, Thom, thank you so much for coming back on and for, you know, special time making in the whole launching of a new Hearthstone expansion. I really do appreciate this.
No problem.
If people wanna know more about you and your amazing podcast, where can they find you?
You can find everything to do with 3 Extra Lives over on social media at 3 Extra Lives. I also have a website over on Fireside, which is an amazing place if you're looking to start a podcast. Fireside.fm, I highly recommend it. It's just such an easy place to go to and set up a podcast and get everything submitted to where it needs to go. I'm not an affiliate, by the way. I'm just a very happy user, and I'm over there at 3extralives.fireside.fm. And yeah, I'm also on Twitch at 3 Extra Lives. So basically you type 3 Extra Lives into your search engine of choice and I'll probably pop up.
That's easier than that. You can't make it, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, Thom, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Sil.
So if you have not listened to any of the Dragon Powered Studio podcasts, do yourself a favor. As soon as this podcast is done, go and look them up and download any show that you can find that you think, okay, this would be for me. So, you know, things for general gaming, go to the Geek Herring if you want a bit of feminism in your podcast as well. I think it's really interesting, some of the topics that these girls preach. Nerd This, 3 Extra Lives, and then you of course have the Half Hill Report and the podcast that Frasley does. So Dungeon Fables, there's so much that you can listen to, and you're doing yourself a disfavor by not actually downloading them. So big shout out to them. I love them. They're really great and always have a lot of fun, and there's a lot of positivity there in their podcasts, and you know, I think that's a good thing nowadays. There's nothing wrong with sometimes having a bit of a nag fest, but I think we need to celebrate positivity. So, with that, we have a great segue into some guild drama. So, not so much positivity, but maybe, you know, think about the fact that maybe you don't have to deal with all this guild drama. So, I have 2 stories for you. Thom said, I had a guild in Wrath. I went all the way through ICC 25 Heroics with. In WoD, I met a girl on a dating app who played WoW. I paid for her transfer and we talked for a few months before I hung out with her. After I invited her to my guild, I quit a few weeks later because, well, WoD. Well, yeah, we've all been there. We talked for months after that and finally hung out. It took me long as fuck because she lived like an hour away, whatever. So I picked this girl up. Man, she catfishes the shit out of me. Still treated her right, took her to dinner and a movie. Went home and told her, like, yo, you're too far, I can't do this. We stopped talking and a few months later I got back into WoW and my guild was gone. Everyone was kicked out. She took my shit over and the character's been inactive ever since. Oh no, that's horrible. That's not really nice. But, you know, once she catfishes you and then she takes over your guild and kicks everyone out. That's kind of nasty. That's really nasty. But, you know, that's the fun times of dating apps, I guess. I think if you've ever been there, it's not a nice thing. Lisa said, I have a sad story. My husband was in a different guild than mine back at the start of Kata. Bliss had us hooked up with free WoW for 2 months after buying StarCraft 2. We weren't pro gamers, but kind to everyone. Once he took materials for leveling the professions for the open to all tab in the guild bank. The GM yelled at him because they were for the raiding team, but he didn't know. After that, he was kicked out and harassed using whispers. He stopped playing altogether and now despises WoW and WoW players. Sometimes he says that he thinks less of me because I still love it, even counting all the toxic people around. I mean, they could have restricted the access to the bank tab. Wow, that's a lot of stuff in there. So, yeah, I agree they could have restricted the access to the guild tab just to raider positions. That's on them. You know, they could have just said, well, pay some gold then for the materials or something like that. I don't think, but this is me personally, and I'm digging a little bit. I don't think that your husband should say and that he thinks less of you just because you still love World of Warcraft. If that's your thing, he should just respect that. And I know that's very easy for me to say, but I've kind of been in your position with my ex, and he actually, you know, I remember back in the day I was really enthusiastic during a BlizzCon stream because we got Mr. Pandaria. Now, don't get me wrong, I was not one of the people who were like, oh my god, yes, pandas, but I actually I got hyped with the stream and I was really happy seeing everything in it. Just, you know, you get swept up by the enthusiasm of other people. And he turned around to me, seeing why I was so happy and squeeing, and he went, I am so embarrassed for you right now. And that is such a horrible moment that someone can just shit on your parade like that. And I don't think anyone should feel less about you just because you enjoy something that they don't enjoy. But that's my personal opinion. You know, that could probably be because of my background and my history there. But you just do you. If you enjoy World of Warcraft, you just have lots of fun and don't give a shit what anyone else says. You know, like, for instance, my situation now. I love World of Warcraft. My boyfriend has nothing with it. But, you know, he jokingly calls me a nerd at times. Which, you know, I am. I'm perfectly happy with that. But he says it in jest and he doesn't do it to mock me or anything. He just does it to see if he can get a bit of a rise out of me. Just like I say certain things to him to get a bit of a rise out of him. That's how we work in our relationship. But he actually, you know, when I said, do you really mind that I played? He says, no, if it makes you happy, go ahead, you know, just do what you want to do, and I'm happy if you're happy. And that's, in my opinion, how it should be. So, you know, I don't bother him when he's watching Top Gear and all those other things, and he lets me play World of Warcraft. So, yeah, that's my opinion. Anyhow, I think, you know, with a show over an hour and almost 15 minutes. It's kind of like time to say goodbye to everyone. Now, if you want to be a guest, I would love to talk to more people. Please just contact me, and you can do that in different ways. You can always find me on Twitter, of course, at whispers_of_war. You can find me on my personal Twitter at McMonkeys with a Z. If you add me, it is all protected tweets. I can't see why I wouldn't follow you or accept you, but just don't get put off by the whole fact that my tweets are protected to begin with. And you can always email me, whispersofwarpodcast@gmail.com, if you want to read about the show notes and see how the correct spelling is for some of the guests and where you can find them. Then I would urge you to go to whispersofwar.podbean.com. And that's it. I wish all of you a very, very amazing time in Azeroth, and I hope you all get very excited for 8.2. I will talk about that next week a lot with Grand Nagus. So if you do not want to get spoiled, maybe you should skip an episode. I would still appreciate it if you downloaded it and just maybe listen to the beginning and the end. And then, I'll give you a big spoiler warning. So don't worry about that. And I will see you all next week. Bye-bye!